Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tavern of Tales. So do you like adventure? Because I enjoy it, especially when the unexpected happens. This is a tale about some middle schoolers being naughty little things. But if it weren't for their curiosity, I may have never found the story. Well then, let's get to it.
I'm an 11-year-old middle schooler. Life was simple enough, but just like any ordinary kid, school was extremely boring. Aside from hanging out with friends and playing sports, I honestly didn't see any reason to go to school other than I had to, because I was forced to, much like all kids. Honestly, if I had a choice, I'd probably stay home and play video games or watch scary movies. I forgot to mention, I'm a bit of a daredevil. I like to look into things that some probably wouldn't try. Anyways, I was on my way to school, and even though I passed this place up pretty much every day, I found myself curious about it. The abandoned hospital. This hospital had been closed for a while because the original hospital decided to relocate elsewhere, and no other business bothered to move in and use the building for anything. I always wondered why no one rented that building out, or at least tore it down. I arrived at school and met up with my friends, and as usual, we burned through time talking with each other until it was time for first period. However, ironically enough, most of us had the same classes together, so the goofing off never really went away. I was in class doing my work easy enough, but something constantly poked at me. Something I couldn't put my finger on until I looked across the street. I looked at that abandoned place in curiosity. I was so deep in thought that I didn't notice that a friend of mine had been calling me, to the point of, instead of whispering, he ended up yelling my name out loud and getting the attention of the teacher, who ended up scolding him. I didn't realize he was calling me until it was too late. The bell rang, and as we were leaving, I asked my friend what he wanted. He asked me if I wanted to hang out at the donut shop for a bit. I said sure. We went there after school and was on the video arcade playing Marvel vs. Street Fighter, but I ran out of quarters. My friend ran out of quarters as well, so all we managed to do is watch other people play. We eventually got bored and decided to go home. I got home and started playing my PlayStation when one of my friends came by and asked me if I wanted to go play basketball. I left with my friend to go play basketball. Me and 5 other friends play 5 games until we take a break. The basketball court, may I add, is next door to the abandoned hospital. As my friends and I are sitting on the grass, I could see the hospital and the windows. As I'm looking at the windows, I see someone in the window. I get up and tell my friends that someone is in the hospital, and one of my friends says it's probably a homeless person because some of them sleep there. I dismiss it, and my friends and I go home. Once I get home, I do my homework and start playing my PlayStation again until it was time to shower and go to bed. The next day I got to school, and during outdoor class the teacher divided us into groups and we had a volleyball tournament. My luck was bad considering the people on my team was pretty trash, especially this bookworm girl who couldn't hit the ball. The guy who was serving continued to hit the ball to her and racked up points. I started to get mad until I turned around and saw her face and noticed that she was crying. I called a timeout and went to her to show her how to hit the ball. I also stayed behind to help her. I rearranged the teams just in case the server decided to hit the ball to the front row. After that, we did very well. We beat the team in a best-of-3 series. I noticed the nerd girl started getting a lot better. The girl's name was Jasmine. There wasn't much to say about her. I thought she was cute underneath the glasses, and she did get a lot better. For the next few days, our team got better and better until we were in the championship round. We ended up winning even though the reward sucked. It was a plain book. I was a bit annoyed, but I had fun nonetheless. We ended up having to play against the teachers, but we got destroyed. After school let out, I was really quick to get home and play my PlayStation because my friend let me borrow a fighting game. I played for the rest of the day until it was time to shower and go to bed. The next day I got up and went to school as usual, but I found out that one of the girls in my class had a crush on me. I didn't pay it no mind until I opened my desk and saw a letter inside. The letter said, "Thank you for showing me how to play volleyball. We kicked ass, and also I think you're cute." The name of the girl was Jasmine. I turned around and saw Jasmine doing her work. I decided to write a letter back to her saying that I think she's cute as well, and also told her to talk to me during passing period. When she got up to sharpen her pencil, I put the letter next to her work. I saw from the corner of my eye that she sat down and started reading it. She looked up, and I was already staring at her, and she smiled. During passing period, she and I started talking. She said she had a crush on me for a while, and the two of us began talking more and more. I went home excited about it, and out of nowhere my friend Greg came along and I told him about Jasmine. He actually asked me to hook him up with her friend Ebony, and I told him I'd try. Ironically enough, Jasmine was calling me while we were walking home. I stopped and waited for her to catch up, and we began to walk home, and I put my arm around her. I told her what Greg said, and she said she'd tell Ebony. Greg crossed the street and went to his house, and I walked Jasmine home. We got to her driveway, and she said she had to get inside before her parents came out. We had an awkward silence for a second. I knew what she wanted, but I was playing it cool or just being shy. I gave her a kiss on the cheek and told her I'll see her tomorrow. She smiled at me, and I saw her cheeks turn red. I turned around and started walking home, and I heard her say bye, and she'll see me tomorrow. I was walking home, and I looked at that hospital, and even in the daytime I always found it creepy. I got home and made me something to eat, and then went in my room. I took the house phone with me and called my friend Greg. He said he was going to talk to Ebony on his own. He had his own plan and everything. After we got off the phone, I played my game until bedtime. The next day I got to school and Jasmine was already there. She and I talked for a while. Greg came over and asked if everyone wanted to hang out after school. We all said yeah. When school let out, we went to the park where the sprinklers were. Greg whispered to me saying he was going to see if the girls wanted to play a game. I looked at him confused. We started getting adrenaline rushes knowing the countdown is approaching. Once the countdown was over, I ran straight toward the hospital. Everyone scattered and went their own way. The game was hide and seek, but there was extra activity in the game that I can't disclose. Greg asked the girls, and the girls were excited and said yes. I got excited when I looked at Jasmine. Greg screamed for the girls to run and hide, and Greg, myself, and everyone else turned around and began to count. I got to the hospital, and I saw Jasmine hiding in the hospital parking lot behind a pillar. I ended up being out of breath because I sprinted the whole way there. I decided to lean against the pillar to catch my breath, but before I could completely catch my breath, Jasmine had already leaned in for a kiss. We stayed there laughing and talking and forgot all about the game. Suddenly, I saw Greg running up. I laughed at him because I thought he failed to bag Ebony. He told me she went inside the hospital, but he was too scared to go in after her. I laughed at him, but in reality I was scared too. Jasmine said she was down to go in because she wanted to find Ebony, and also she wanted to see what the inside looked like. I took a deep breath and we went inside. The hospital doors groaned the moment we pushed them open. The sound echoed through the empty lobby like the building itself was waking up. Dust floated through the air, shining in the late afternoon sunlight that barely squeezed through the cracked windows. Greg immediately stepped back. "Nah," he said, shaking his head. "This place smells like death." "It smells like mold," Jasmine replied, laughing a little. I tried to laugh too, but honestly my chest felt tight. The place gave off a weird feeling, the kind that made the back of your neck itch. The lobby was huge. Old hospital beds were tipped over against walls, papers scattered everywhere, and the ceiling had giant water stains hanging over us like dark clouds. One of the fluorescent lights overhead flickered every few seconds, even though the building supposedly had no power. Greg pointed at it. "See? That's exactly why we should leave." Jasmine walked further inside before either of us could stop her. "Ebony!" she shouted. Her voice echoed down the hallway. Nothing. Then, clang. Something metallic crashed somewhere upstairs. All three of us froze. Greg looked at me with wide eyes. "Tell me you heard that." Before I could answer, Jasmine grabbed my arm tighter. "It's probably Ebony," she whispered, though she didn't sound convinced anymore. We slowly moved deeper into the hospital. Every step creaked beneath our shoes. There were abandoned wheelchairs tipped over near the walls and faded signs pointing toward surgery rooms and patient wings. As we passed the nurse station, I noticed something strange. The dust on the counter was thick everywhere, except for one spot. A handprint. Fresh. I stopped walking. "What?" Jasmine asked quietly. I pointed toward it. Greg instantly cursed under his breath. "Okay, nah," he muttered. "Someone's definitely in here." Another noise echoed from upstairs. This time it sounded like footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Thump. 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 The three of us looked up toward the second-floor balcony. For a second, nothing moved. Then I saw it. Someone standing at the railing, just staring down at us. I couldn't make out their face because of the shadows, but I knew they were watching us. Jasmine squeezed my arm so hard it hurt. Greg whispered, "Run." But before we could move, the figure turned and disappeared into the darkness upstairs. We all started talking over each other at once. Was that Ebony? No way that was Ebony. Maybe it's a homeless dude. Then why was he just standing there like that? Greg pointed toward the staircase. I'm leaving. But Jasmine looked worried now. What if Ebony really went upstairs? I looked at the dark stairwell. My brain was screaming not to go, but my pride wouldn't let me chicken out in front of everybody. I'll check real quick, I said. Greg looked offended. Bro, why are you always the main character? Despite being terrified, I laughed. The four of us slowly climbed the stairs. Every step echoed through the building. Halfway up, we heard another metallic clang somewhere down the hall, followed by what sounded like whispering. By the time we reached the second floor, the hallway stretched endlessly in both directions. Patient room doors hung open. Some were completely dark, while others had sunlight cutting across the floor. And then, Jasmine? A voice echoed softly from one of the rooms. We all turned. It sounded exactly like Ebony. Jasmine immediately started walking toward the room, but I grabbed her wrist. Wait! Something felt wrong. The voice came again. Jasmine, come here. Greg looked pale now. Nah, nope, absolutely not. The room door slowly creaked open wider on its own. Inside was complete darkness. Then from behind us, "Why are you guys upstairs?" We spun around so fast I nearly slipped. Ebony stood at the end of the hallway holding a bag of chips and looking confused. Jasmine screamed. Greg almost fell over trying to backpedal, and the voice from the dark room suddenly stopped. The hallway went completely silent. Every hair on my arm stood up. Ebony frowned. "What's wrong with you guys?" I looked back toward the room. The door was still open. But now, I could see someone standing inside, tall, completely still, watching us. "Run!" I yelled. All five of us sprinted down the hallway. Behind us, I heard fast footsteps chasing after us. The hospital suddenly sounded alive, doors slamming, metal rattling, something screaming in the distance. We practically flew down the stairs. Greg jumped the last 4 steps and nearly crashed through the lobby doors. We burst outside, gasping for air, and didn't stop running until we reached the basketball courts. Nobody talked for a solid minute. Finally, Greg bent over with his hands on his knees. "I never," he gasped, "ever want to riz Ebony up again if it involves demons." Ebony looked confused. "I literally just went inside to use the bathroom." Jasmine moved closer to me, still shaken. "You saw it too, right?" she asked quietly. I nodded. The worst part? As we stood there catching our breath, I looked back toward the hospital windows. And on the second floor, I saw the figure again, standing there, watching us leave. Monday morning felt weird the moment I stepped onto campus. Usually everybody was loud and joking around before first period, but now it felt different. Every time somebody looked at me, Greg or Jasmine, they whispered about the hospital. I spotted Greg near the cafeteria entrance, practically bouncing with energy. The dude looked way too excited considering we almost died 2 nights ago. "You good?" I asked. Greg grinned. "Bro, tell me that wasn't the craziest thing ever." "You call that crazy?" Jasmine said as she walked up beside me, adjusting her glasses. "I call that traumatizing." Greg laughed. "Nah, that was legendary." Jasmine looked at me. "See? This is exactly why boys die first in horror movies." I couldn't help laughing a little. Even though we were joking around, I could tell Jasmine was still shaken up. She stayed close to me while we walked through the hallway. Then Ebony came running over. "Okay," she said. "I barely slept last night." Greg pointed at her dramatically. "And you didn't believe me?" Ebony folded her arms. "Because you always exaggerate stuff." "I do not. You once said a raccoon chased you for 3 blocks. It did." Before they could start arguing again, a few classmates crowded around us asking questions. Did you really see red eyes? Was that old man real? Did somebody die there? Y'all should go back. Hell no, Jasmine immediately said. Greg looked thoughtful for a second. Then he smiled. Actually, me and Jasmine both looked at him. No, we said at the same time. But it was already too late. By lunchtime, the entire grade knew about the hospital. Kids were making theories, daring each other to go inside, and pretending not to be scared even though everybody clearly was. One guy even claimed the hospital used to perform experiments on patients. Another said the place was haunted by a doctor who disappeared years ago. Most of it sounded fake. But after what we saw, nobody was completely laughing anymore. Saturday finally came around, and somehow all 9 of us actually showed up. Standing outside the abandoned hospital in the evening felt way scarier than before. The building looked even bigger with the sky turning orange behind it. Broken windows stared down at us like empty eyes. Greg clapped his hands together. All right, nobody panic. You're literally panicking, Ebony said. I'm hyped, Greg corrected. Jasmine quietly moved closer beside me. If we die, I'm blaming Greg. That's fair, I admitted. We pushed through the hospital doors together. The second we stepped inside, cold air hit us. It smelled like dust, mold, and something rotten underneath it all. Everybody stayed close as we walked through the lobby using our phone flashlights. The beam from the lights bounced off cracked walls and old hospital equipment. At first it was quiet. Too quiet. Then we started hearing things. Soft whispers. Footsteps down distant hallways. Doors creaking somewhere far away. Every now and then I'd catch movement from the corner of my eye. Shadowy figures slipping around corners. Whenever I looked directly at them, nothing was there. One of the girls whispered, "Did y'all see that?" Nobody answered because we all had. We kept moving anyway. That's when I passed one of the patient rooms and froze. An old man was sitting on the bed. He looked pale and thin, wearing what looked like an old hospital gown. His head was tilted slightly downward like he was staring at the floor. I stopped walking completely. Guys, nobody heard me. The old man slowly lifted his head toward me. His eyes looked cloudy, like he wasn't really alive. I blinked, and he vanished. Completely gone. I stumbled backward. What happened? Jasmine asked, grabbing my arm. There was somebody in there. Everybody pointed their flashlights into the room. Empty. Greg frowned. Bro, stop playing. I'm serious. Before anybody could respond. Flicker. The hallway lights overhead suddenly flashed on for half a second, then off, then on again. Everybody screamed. One of the old light fixtures overhead snapped loose and crashed onto the floor, exploding into sparks. People started panicking. Let's go. We should leave. Then we heard something rolling behind us. We turned around slowly. A wheelchair was moving down the hallway by itself. Nobody was touching it. The chair slowly stopped, and the hallway lights died completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Then, 2 glowing red eyes appeared at the end of the hall. Somebody screamed so loud my ears rang. The eyes started moving toward us. Fast. Run! Greg yelled. Everybody took off instantly. The hallway exploded with screaming and pounding footsteps. I grabbed Jasmine's hand while Greg pulled Ebony beside him. Keep moving! I shouted. Behind us, we heard heavy footsteps chasing us through the dark. Closer. Closer. People were crying now. One girl almost fell, and Greg grabbed her backpack, pulling her forward before she hit the ground. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the old man sitting on the hospital bed staring at me. The image kept replaying over and over in my head like a broken video clip. I kept wondering why he disappeared when he pointed toward that room. Why did he look scared? And why did it feel like he wanted me to see something? At around 2 in the morning, I finally sat up in bed, frustrated. My TV glowed quietly from standby mode while shadows stretched across my room. I looked toward my window, half expecting to see those red eyes staring back at me. I barely slept after that. The next morning at school, I dragged myself through the front gate exhausted. I spotted Jasmine, Ebony, and Greg standing near the lunch tables talking seriously. Jasmine looked worried while Greg looked weirdly excited again. I walked over. "Y'all still talking about the hospital?" Greg pointed at me immediately. "See? I knew I wasn't the only one thinking about it." "You couldn't sleep either?" I asked. Greg shook his head. "Bro, I kept hearing footsteps in my head." Jasmine crossed her arms. "I wish all of you would stop talking about it." Ebony looked at me carefully. "You really saw that old man?" "Yeah." Before anybody could say anything else, Greg lowered his voice dramatically. "I'm going back this weekend." Everybody stared at him. "You're insane," Jasmine said instantly. "My cousin wants to go," Greg continued proudly. "He says ghosts aren't real." I sighed. Part of me wanted nothing to do with that hospital ever again, but another part of me needed answers. "I'll go too," I heard myself say. Jasmine looked at me like I lost my mind. "Seriously?" I nodded slowly. After a few seconds, Jasmine groaned. "If you're going, then I'm going too." Ebony shook her head. "Y'all are bad influences." "You coming or not?" Greg asked. Ebony rolled her eyes. "Unfortunately, yes." Saturday night arrived faster than any of us wanted. This time we wore regular street clothes instead of school uniforms. Hoodies, jeans, sneakers, like somehow dressing differently would protect us. 3 other classmates joined us too. 7 kids standing outside the abandoned hospital at night. The building looked darker than ever. Its broken windows reflected moonlight while weeds swayed around the parking lot. Nobody moved for a second. Greg finally spoke. "All right, let's go." The front doors creaked open slowly when we pushed inside. Instantly, that freezing air hit us again, cold enough to make my skin tighten. The inside was completely silent except for dripping water somewhere deep in the building. Nobody wanted to move forward. We all stood near the entrance, gripping our phones and flashlights while adrenaline pumped through us. One of the boys whispered, "This was a bad idea." Greg laughed nervously. "Too late now." And before anybody could stop him, Greg started walking deeper into the hospital. I looked at Jasmine. She looked terrified, but she nodded at me anyway. So I followed him. Greg headed toward the stairs leading upstairs. "I'm checking the 2nd floor," he whispered. "You're stupid," Ebony muttered. I slowly walked down the hallway toward the patient rooms again. And then I saw him, the old man, sitting on the same bed. This time he looked directly at me immediately. I froze completely. He slowly raised one trembling hand and pointed toward another room farther down the hall. Suddenly his expression changed. Fear. Real fear. Then he vanished. My heart started pounding. I slowly turned toward the room he pointed at. The door was halfway open. Inside the darkness, something moved. At first I thought it was a person. Then it stood taller. Too tall. Its shape looked twisted and wrong, with glowing eyes buried deep in the darkness. It smiled. I jumped backward in horror. Right then, Jasmine walked up beside me. "What are you?" She looked inside the room and screamed. Loud. The thing inside moved suddenly. At the same moment, we heard Greg screaming upstairs. Not joking, actually screaming. Jasmine grabbed my arm hard. We backed away from the room, only to turn around and see shadowy spirits standing in the hallway behind us. Human shapes, dozens of them, watching us silently. The other kids completely lost it. Everybody started running toward the exit, screaming, "Go, go, go!" I sprinted down the hallway beside Jasmine while hearing horrible noises behind us. Whispers, crying, screaming. As I ran, something caught my eye near the floor. A picture frame. Without thinking, I grabbed it. Then I heard a deep voice echo through the hallway behind us. "Come back!" The entire building seemed to shake with the sound. Nobody stopped running. We burst through the hospital doors, gasping for breath, and nearly tripped over ourselves trying to escape the parking lot. We didn't stop until we reached the sidewalk near the streetlights. Everybody was panicking at once. "What was that? I'm never coming back." "That thing was looking at us." Jasmine stayed close beside me, shaking badly. Then I remembered the picture. I pulled it out carefully. The glass was cracked, but the photo inside was still visible. An old picture of the same old man smiling beside a woman and 2 children. Jasmine stared at it wide-eyed. "That's him." Greg finally caught his breath. "Bro," he said between gasps. Something upstairs started charging at me. "What did it look like?" "I don't know. I didn't stay to ask." For once, Greg didn't look excited anymore. He looked genuinely terrified. "I'm done exploring," he admitted. Jasmine immediately nodded. "Me too." "Same," Ebony said quietly. "And honestly, so was I." The next day, I showed Greg the picture while we sat outside his house. Greg stared at it strangely. "Wait a minute. What?" "I think I know this guy." I frowned. "What?" Greg stood up suddenly. "My neighbor has a picture like this in her house." We walked next door together. An older woman answered the door. Greg carefully showed her the photo. The second she saw it, she burst into tears. "Oh my God," she whispered shakily. "Dad." Greg and I looked at each other silently. The woman invited us inside. Her name was Jennifer. She explained that the man in the photo was her father, Bill, who had died years ago after being neglected and abused during his stay in that hospital before it shut down. I slowly handed her the picture. I think," I said carefully, "I think he wanted somebody to find this." Jennifer started crying harder and suddenly hugged me tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. Over time, Jennifer began speaking publicly about the abuse and neglect that happened in the hospital. She eventually started a non-profit organization helping abused elderly people and neglected patients. Then, months later, she successfully petitioned the city to demolish the abandoned hospital. The day they tore it down, several of us went to watch. Greg stood beside me silently while huge machines tore through the old walls. Jasmine stood next to me holding my hand tightly. Dust filled the air as pieces of the hospital collapsed. Jennifer watched quietly beside us. I looked at her. "Do you think this helped your father?" Jennifer smiled sadly. "I think," she said softly, "the souls trapped there can finally rest." And honestly, for the first time since entering that building, I felt relief. Years passed after that. Greg and I stayed close friends. Jasmine moved out of state, but we still talked sometimes. Ebony and some of the others ended up going to different high schools. Life moved on. But every now and then, usually late at night, I still think about that hospital. I wonder if the souls there finally found peace. And as for the thing with the red eyes, I still wonder what it really was, because hospitals exist everywhere. And sometimes, I can't help but wonder if that thing simply found another dark hallway to wait in. And by the way, the name of the game we played at the park was called Hide and Go Get It.
I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. Well, if you're interested in more stories, then you know where to find me. I'll be here drinking and talking with my comrades as always. Until next time, friend.